In today's tutorial we're going around the block and we're going to do this amazing corner to corner effect Afghan. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as Yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. In today's tutorial we're going to work on a completely square Afghan, and there is a diagram available and you can see how it's going to work out. And I actually just blew this up as well in order for me to help me see the stitches. But also this is something that we've done before. It's called the cottage throw. There's another pattern available on our YouTube learning channel on how to do this particular concept. But of course we're switching it up a little bit today using the Bernat Maker Home Dec yarn. We are going to use an L size crochet hook, which is an 8mm, and it's recommending 3 different colors, and you can see how it's going to work out. And this is one of those ones I want to talk to you about before we dive right in, because I was starting to question life on this particular pattern. It's not hard, it's just I was questioning things, and I want to show you this concept so that you don't give up too easily on this one. So here's my particular pattern. I used 2 different colors as you can see. So it's like a corner to corner, but we're going around a block kind of concept. And what you're going to notice that when we go to start with this, you're going to notice that it does not look very square. And that's because the stitches, do you see how on the outside here they're kind of like collapsing in on each other? Well, when you're starting off like this, it appears like that and you're thinking, okay, I'm really way off track here and it's not gonna work out. But as you get further into this project, the stitches begin to relax with each other and then gives you the perfect shape that you're looking for. So this is one of those ones where I was right in the middle, I think maybe on row number 3, and I was turning to Daniel. I says, I'm not sure about this one. And the reality is that I wasn't giving it a chance for it to relax, and I just went a little bit further and then I changed my mind. So today we're going to work on the diagram itself. Let me take you through that next, and let me point out some pointers for you. Here's the crochet diagram that we're going to be working with. I blew it up versus the little version that is on the pattern. And what you're going to notice here is that we are going to do every round a different color. So you'll see that there is black here. This is just a black writing. So this is all one, and then we start switching to a new color. So the blue here is the same color, and then the black, if you follow it around, you'll see it's all the same color. So you're going to notice on this particular one is that when it grows up, all the ones on the, look at it like a cross, they're all completely going horizontal or vertical to each other. The ones on this side will all lean in the same direction, and the ones on this side will all lean in the same direction. Do you see this? So it gives you an indication of where you are in the pattern. So let's take a look at the sample really carefully now. So you have to look at the sample like it's a diagonal, like a diamond shape going up. So you'll notice that they're all facing in the same direction, and then this is actually the back side of the pattern from what I can see here. Okay, so I've followed it up here, and then these ones are all leaning toward this side, and then this one here it's all leaned out this way, and then they're all leaning this way. Do you see this? Then they're coming out this way, and then these are all leaning this way, and these ones here they're all leaning this way. So they're kind of like it's a pinwheel kind of a concept. So you know you're going wrong if, for example, you do the next row and then it's the opposite to what is being seen here. That's the one thing that you need to watch out for in this particular pattern. So let's grab your yarn and create a slip knot and your size L 8mm crochet hook today, and we're gonna chain 8 as our starting ring. So we're going to do that. So just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is your center ring, and then what I want you to do is take the starting chain, insert it onto the hook, yarn over, and pull through and through to create the center ring just like this. The first time you go around the straggler, I want you to put it like it's around the ring, and then we'll get that stuck underneath and nobody will ever see it. So let's move along to row number 1. Row number 1, we're gonna chain up 1 first, and then inside the center of the ring I want you to put 12 single crochets. So 1, 2, and put that straggler in so that it gets stuck underneath. So that was 2, 3. So there's 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Once you have all 12 in there, this just happened to run out where it is, but if this was still hanging out you just take a scissors and cut it. So what I would do is count back from the hook, so the one right underneath it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and that 12th one right is where you'll just join it then with the slip stitch. And sometimes it's hard to tell that first one, so if you just count it backward like that, it's an easy way of doing that. If your straggler is hanging out at this point, like it is a little bit with mine, I'm gonna take the scissors and cut that, get that out of the way, keep it nice and clean, and let's move on to the next row. So keep on the same color, do not change yet. So here in the pattern we're going to slip stitch 1 over, and then we're gonna chain up 4. So 1 2 3 4, and then we're gonna treble into the next stitch, and then treble into the next stitch, and then chain 4, and we're gonna slip stitch it to the next stitch. Then chain 4 out in this direction, you'll turn your work, and then treble into the next 2, and then chain 4 to come back, and then chain 4 to slip stitch it and chain 4. And so what we have to do with these particular ones, especially on the ones in the right at the beginning, not only do we have to chain 4 going up, but we also have to chain 4 going back down in order to keep it looking consistent. So let's continue to do that for row number 2. So let's begin row number 2, and we're going to slip stitch over 1 more. So just go to the next one, pull through and through, and now let's begin. We're going to chain up 4. So 1 2 3 4. This actually counts as a treble technically, but just so you know that that's a chain 4. So we're gonna treble, so we're gonna wrap the hook twice, and coming into the next stitch available to you, we're gonna treble, and then we're gonna treble 1 more time. So wrap the hook again, going into the next stitch available to you, pull through 2 and 2 and 2 all the way back up. And now you'll notice that especially in the beginning here, that you'll have what appears to be 4. So you have to chain 4 to come back down back to the ring. So 1 2 3 and 4. So just come to the very next stitch available to you and slip stitch in, just to hold that down. And now you're going to just automatically turn your work like I did, and let's go in the up direction again. So we're gonna chain 4. 1 2 3 and 4. We're gonna treble into the next stitch, and then treble into the next stitch, and now we're gonna chain 4 to come all the way back down again. See how this is looking like it's really way off? You gotta give it a chance. This is one thing that I almost gave up too early on. So just chain 4. So 1 2 3 and 4, coming back down to the next stitch available to you. So let's slip it, and now let's chain 4. So 1 2 3 and 4. Now come to the next stitch available to you. You're going to treble, and then come to the next stitch, you're gonna treble, and then you need to come back down again. You see this? It's almost like a cross. So 1 2 3 and 4, coming back down to the next one, slip stitch it, and now we're gonna do our final side. So chain up 4. 1 2 3 and 4. We're gonna treble into the next one, and then treble into the next one, and finally we're gonna chain 4 to come back down and slip it right where the other one is. So 1 2 3 and 4, and then just slip it into the next one, which is the same one as where this one is coming out of. And I need you to fasten off this yarn and hide in your loose ends at this moment. So now that I've done that, I'm gonna do that right as I go. It just is a lot easier to do. Let me show you. I'm gonna trim my yarn. I'm gonna pull that yarn through, and what I want to do is that I want to weave it, and you can get a smaller hook if you wanted to, just maybe a little easier. Just go into some stitch work and just pull it through and weave it through, and it will get stuck with the next round that you're gonna do here. Okay, and I usually just come up and over, and I stop right about here, and I leave that hanging out until I'm satisfied, and then I'm gonna move up to the next row, and let me show you where to start, because each one of the rows we all start in the same position, but we have to stop and change our yarn every time we do a different row. So now that I fastened off, you'll see that there is a slip stitch mark here. This is every time we start. So we're always gonna start at the start. It doesn't matter which one it is, but you're always gonna start at the top of one and chain up 4, and then do the next 2 trebles into the same trebles, and then chain 4 to come back down, and then this is where the storyline changes. Do you see how the first one is then gonna be leaning in this direction, and then this one is going to be then building up. So this one here is the start of all of them starting to lean. So this a particular side will lean this way, this will lean this way, this will lean this way, and this way. And if you just look at what direction that they're sitting in, it gives you a good indication on where you should go. So let's begin again, and I'm gonna start a slip knot, and let's do the next row. So I want you to come in, see where I finished and pulled that last one out. That's the first stitch that I want to go into, and I just want to just go into an actual chain. Don't go into a gap space at all. This is like the corner to corner, but you don't go into gap spaces. You still maintain chain work in this particular one. And really I thought to myself it would be a real pain, especially when you're working in these, but it's really not. It's actually a lot more simpler than I expected. So let's just join our yarn with a slip stitch, and I want to keep this yarn here down on top of the line so it gets stuck underneath, and I want to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I now want to treble once into each one of the trebles that are there, so I'm gonna wrap the hook twice to do a treble. Keep this down on top of the line and it will get stuck underneath the stitch, and treble once again. So now I have to get back down to this section here. So how do I do that? You chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I just come down and I slip stitch it right into the top of that chain. Just slip it, and then I begin again. So do you notice how I just automatically turned? Well, this is now the starting. Now I'm gonna use the side of this chain here to then start going in this direction, in the same direction that this one is facing. So I'm gonna chain up 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I want to put 2 trebles along this chain. Don't go into a space, go right into a chain. So I'm just gonna wrap the hook and go right into a chain, and I think it's because this yarn is so thick, I think it makes it a lot easier to get in there than it does on the other one that I did. So you want to have a total of 2 of these in a row working on that chain in 2 different spots, of course. See that? Once you get that done, you need to slip stitch then to the top of this chain here to bring it into balance, just like this. Okay, so you saw that there was 4 stitches here, but now what you'll see if you really look at the chart, you'll see that there's only ever 3 of one color then it's gonna be working. And you notice it's looking distorted. That's because it needs to relax, and it doesn't relax until you get a few more rows after this. So let's chain up 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're gonna treble into the next 2. Okay, so you're following what's already there, and now you have to come back down again. So to come back down, you chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Coming back down, just slip stitch it to the top of the chain, not to a space. And now let's turn our work, and now this one is then gonna face in this direction. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now the next 2 are right in the side of the chain. So there's gonna be 2 trebles right into the chain itself. So 1, and just move down to the next spot in the chain, and 2. Now that you did that, slip stitch it to the top of this section here to bring that to a conclusion, and turn your work. Do you see that? So let's chain up 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's treble into the next 2. Now that you've satisfied that, let's get 4 down to go back down to this section here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and coming down to the top of the chain, slip stitch it, and turn the work. Okay, do you see how everything's starting to work around that? So let's chain up 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I want you to go along the chain for another 2 trebles. This pattern took a little bit of getting used to memorizing how things went, but once you got beyond that, it was, for myself, you see me automatically doing it on camera because I'm used to it. So then I want to slip stitch it to the top of the next chain because you got your 3 in there, and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then treble into the next 2. So what's gonna happen on this particular pattern is that the corners get wider out, and then there will be more spaces. So it's like the corner to corner, there's going to be more spaces in between these points, which then makes it a lot easier. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. I want to come back down, and this is the final going all the way around. So I want to chain up 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and in the side chain 2 more trebles. So once you have this going all the way around, then you just slip stitch it then to the beginning to where you had started before. So let me fasten that off and let's kind of show you what's going on. Leave a little bit of extra. I want you to weave in the ends like I showed you before. Okay, this time I'm gonna just grab my other hook and I'm just gonna go along the top. Smaller hook obviously can get into the stitches a little bit easier, and it just makes it easier to hide these. And now I can safely trim off that blue one that was hanging out because that's pretty much underneath the stitches. And that's what it looks like at this point. Okay, so this is the thing, is that it just takes a little bit for this to relax, and then it will sit like the other one does. Let me show you the example. So now that you've seen this done here, I haven't done anything, it just relaxed on its own. But when you're in the beginning stages, it looks like it's more ratty kind of idea, but that's because it hasn't relaxed yet and it needs the other layers in order to sit like this. So let's move along to the next round. So I'm going to take you one more round around, and we have essentially established what we have here is that we were on row number 3. Now we're gonna go for round number 4. So that means that there's gonna be more spaces before we get to an edge here, and that's the only difference, is that we just have to watch that, and then it'll get bigger and bigger as you go. And these points here is like the Afghan, like it's sitting like this. So let's move along to the next round. So let's start our next round. I'm gonna create a slip knot, and now remember what I told you is that we have to come up to a point. So it can be this point here, it can be this point here, it can be either one. Just got to rotate it. So we finished right here, so we cannot start there. We have to start at the top. So let's just pick any one of those ones that are right at the top, and let's fasten on our yarn, and we're gonna chain up 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. Leave that straggler down on top so that you can hide it underneath, and you want to treble in the next 2. Very good. And then to get back down to this gray section right here, we have to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. This allows you to also turn all the stitches on its side and then in the next part of this. Okay, so I'm just slip stitching it. Now I'm gonna turn the work. So this one is already facing in the upward way. This one already is too. So this new one here is also gonna face in that same direction. So we're gonna chain up 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, coming into the side of the chain for 2 more trebles. Like that, and then treble again, as long as you get your 2 in there. Okay, so there will be a total of 3, just like it was before. See how there's 3 here? There will always be 3. Slip stitch it to the top of the first one, and then move up. So chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then treble into the next 2 that are available to you. See, this is when it gets easy, especially when you're right in between the points of the corners. Okay, you get your 3 is now in there. Just slip stitch it here, and now you're on a point. So in the point we have to not only chain up 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, we treble into the first, or into the 2 trebles that are already there. And then we have to come back down, so we have to chain 4 to come back down. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and come back down. Just like that. And so you turn your work, and now let's begin this side. So you can see this side just has an extra one there, and this one is now gonna have the extra one here. So I'm gonna turn my work and chain 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and treble twice into the side of the chain. So you're only having to do the side of the chain whenever you're right on the point corner itself, and then the ones all in the center now between the points are all right in the tops of trebles. So you got that done, just slip stitch it to the top of the next treble, chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and this time you're playing in the trebles. So this is when it gets really quite easy. This is when the stitches start relaxing and the pattern that you've been working with is going to look like it does in the picture. So if you give up too early on this one, it doesn't, you haven't done yourself any justice. So now you're on a corner again, so you're gonna chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and treble into the next 2. And then you need to come back down because you're on a corner. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and back down to the top of the chain. And then you're gonna turn your work. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, side of the chain for 2 trebles. Just like that. And then slip stitch it to the top of the next treble, and then chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is just like that corner to corner concept, and then you're going to treble into the next 2 trebles. Okay, once you get that done, you're just going to slip stitch it to the top of the beginning or top of the next chain 4, and now you're on a corner once again. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then you're going to treble into the next 2. So there's no border on this particular pattern. You just stop when you're satisfied with the size of it. So chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, coming back down top of the chain because you're on the corner. And now turn your work and chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and side of the chain for 2 trebles. Just like that. Okay, slip stitch it to the top of the next chain 4. And now this is gonna be the final spot that you have here. So you're gonna chain 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and just do a first treble, and then treble again to the next one. And this time now then it's in the last one, so you want to slip stitch to the very first one that you started with, and then that's it. So that rotation is completely done. Let's trim off our extra yarn at this moment, and just taking my other hook, I can just hide in the ends. Okay, and so I can cut the other gray one that I had out. I buried that one in. I want to take my hook, my smaller hook, and weave this one in and out for a few of the stitches so I can get it stuck underneath some stuff next time I'm coming back around on this one. And I can change my yarn now, and now that I've gone around this round here, I can see everything is just kind of relaxed out and it's a lot easier to do. And I think when I did this before, I actually worked in the spaces and not into a side of the chain, and when you do the spaces it really made some really terrible terrible gapping spaces. But if you work on the side of the chain, as you can see here, you get a much better looking effect. So this is how you do the Around the Block Afghan. This is not a hard concept, and once you master it, and once you get this much bigger, it's just easier to go along the rows, and then the corners is just a few extra steps that you have to do in order to do that. So until next time, it's Mikey on behalf of the Crochet Crowd as well as Yarnspirations.com. Have a great day. We'll see you again real soon. Bye bye.